So I'll set a timer for 1.5 minutes and kick it off with Funk. If you give us a check on the community, yourself, your working group. Olanka? Okay, if you're not there or stepped away for a minute. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I had connection issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just getting started with the temper check. Do you want to kick it off, or should we come back to you?
Yeah, I can take it. I am super excited. I am happy that the Gitcoin grant starts today, and that we have so many cool projects that tribute to this big ecosystem, and I am also happy about the way Gravity is going. Today we had a meeting with some people from Gitcoin, and it seems that we are going to be able to work together to find and improve conflict management in DAOs. So that's great, and nothing else. Happy that we are all. I feel that we are getting a certain maturity over the params and over the proposals. So the debates now are like more or of more level. And yeah, I'll pass to Chuy.
Thank you, Juanca. I feel that it's a great momentum right now on many things. I was a little bit worried at the beginning of the week that maybe like some stuff wasn't gonna be like met on time, but the support that everyone is providing, I feel that is gonna bring like everything at the right time, and yeah, I'm excited for this call, and yeah, for the topics that we're gonna be checking. I'll pass it to Edu.
Thank you. It was nice to try out the new deck on the orientation call, and it actually works very good. So praise just laser for that. That's on that side. On the other side, I finally adjust to time zone. So I'm finally like, okay, I can be on my mind and present fully on the calls. So I don't know. This week has been good, and it felt good to be on my normal schedule finally. So besides that, orientation call went well. Community task went well. So we're in a good strike at the moment. Looking forward for how it goes. And 5IV should deploy today the new bot for survey, so we will have more information about users. So that's also nice. And I will pass it on to, oh, there you go, Lauren. Hello, passing it to you.
Thanks, Edu. Temperature check with me. I'm feeling good. Temperature check. I've been feeling that I had 2 param parties this week that nobody showed up to, so I'm thinking that like we had this little confusion with extending the deadline for parameters, and then I think it lost a little bit of steam. So I think ramping up a little bit and trying to bring more people in would be a good thing. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say. I'll pass it on to. I jumped in late. I'll pass it on to Griff.
Yeah, temperature check is hot. I mean, we just did the Common Stack AMA and the room was full. People couldn't get in. So that was really nice. And I feel like no one's coming to the param parties, unfortunately, which is kind of lame. But and I feel like we need to really readjust how we're advertising and planning our param parties. But honestly, I feel like people know that it's hot, and it has really good vibes in the space. So I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm just really excited for the parameters and the common swarm are both almost done. Paulo and Sem are working hard on the getting the demo out, and I think we might be able to show it off next week. It's looking very promising. Internal demo should be out this week, and then params. There's only 4 issues left that haven't been addressed in the params dashboard. So, wow, amazing. It feels really good to feel like done almost. And I'll pass it to Ryder.
Yeah, I can do a short temp check. In my little corner of the world, I'm getting excited for, I'm going to put my camera on, for the emergence of the reward board working group. And not only is it emerged and it is a working group now, but just, this is the first one I've emerged in TC, which feels really cool, but it's so crucial to have a committee to be at least delegating these things, if not, and also having boundaries about how much to do. So it's just really cool to see a group of people working that out from the bottom up. And then, Mitch just brought up hey, when you're ready for a params party, reward board, it's yeah, exactly. So that feels like it's popping off, and I will pass the Tam so that she can choose the next person.
How's the temperature? Wait. I don't know if your audio is working. Maybe we'll jump to Zep.
We couldn't hear the name you said. I think you said Nate, right?
Oh, yeah, I didn't hear that.
You take it.
So, okay. Yeah, no, it's good. Temperature check is good. Excited about the param parties and submissions. Hopefully we can get more participation out of that. I'm really encouraged by what's going on in the comms working group. I think breaking down into these subgroups is really awesome, and good job, Chewy, on that. And I think that's the orientation call went amazing, and we keep getting new people. And I want to send out major praise to Aloysius for being a super spreader of the TEC. It's if I hear another person that was I'm here because of Aloysius, it's quite amazing. So major praise for that. But overall, it's been pretty good, and looking forward to the upcoming week. So I'll pass it over to you, Zepti.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, for me, we were discussing in the chat about these credentials things, and now there's another thing. It's hard sometimes to get decisions because, for example, if it was my YouTube channel, I was talking also with Zero about this dollar cake that could create some revenues for the YouTube channel. And if it's my YouTube channel, it's so easy because you do whatever you want. But then when it's ours, and it feels so hard to should I implement it because I think it's a cool idea? Should I not? It's very hard. I don't know. I'm also so excited for the working group param parties. I think if it would be so cool if every working group ends up proposing a set of params, and maybe we can debate that. I'm very excited also for the Omega. For the Omega params. I'll pass it to Cypher.
Everybody, I'm feeling very excited. I'm seeing the need for the TEC work in the common stack and so many other conversations that I'm having. Worked with my buddy on a proposal for Regen Network, and I see the stack here just making a lot of sense. And just been enjoying the param parties. I have one that I've been playing with. May or may not post it. But just excited to be here, call and to kind of catch up. I'm finally back in office after 2 months on the road, so feels good to be planted in one place, and good to see a lot of familiar names and faces.
Excellent. Go ahead.
Pass it to Mitch. Have you gone?
No, thank you. My temperature is hot and cold. Hot and cold. I'm feeling really hot. I'm feeling very bullish about the reward system. It's coming together. There's
a lot of work and figuring out still that has to be done, but it's like what I do see is looking really, really good. So I'm excited about that. Extending the commons upgrade, I feel a bit lost after it, and so I'm just like figuring out like, okay, how do we keep moving forward with it? And like a lot of the things that we were building momentum for have lost momentum now and lost direction. So I'm like, I'm feeling a little bit cold on that one. So an interesting mix this week, but I'll pass it to, I will pass it back to Tam. Or Libby, have you gone? Yeah, Libby.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel super excited about the reward system too. There's so many things now, like they're more concrete coming from the research group. I posted a graph that Andy made in the reward system chat, if everybody wants to check it out. It's just like so many visualizations coming up, and we're still working with the old batch of praise, but a lot of ideas coming out from there. And I had a few brainstorming sessions with Christopher this week to work on an identity system using praise, and I think that could like influence a lot our governance system. And we're looking, it just feels like a lot of very exciting ideas that we're looking into, and it feels like the TEC is the best place to experiment with them. And in the params parties, yeah, I feel like it was a good decision to postpone. Personally, maybe selfishly, I wasn't having time to participate before, and then now this approach of working with the working groups and having more like directed commitments with different groups. And the AMA we had today was awesome. It feels like more eyes came into from the right place. And yeah, I'm feeling excited to think about what would be like the best cultural proposal. Work on that. And I'll pass to Tim.
I think it's just me now. Right, everyone else went? Okay. I'll say, I've been very absent. I'm prioritizing, French essays about books, 7th grade level, and all kinds of homework that I'm not used to helping with. And the same with the 4th grade level too. So it's a little, hot and cold is a good way of describing it, but maybe it's more like, I feel a little schizophrenic because I'm getting FOMO because there's so much going on, but I can't do anything because if I have any expectations of being productive, I yell at my kids. But it's like they just need someone to actually not like to be present and we have a good happy vibe. So I'm just letting everything go with the TEC, and it's I just looking forward to Monday when at least one of them is back in school. Nobody else is positive. Everyone else tested negative. So just the 9-year-old is positive. Nobody else. She didn't spread it to anyone else. It's really weird. But she goes back to school on Monday, and I'm really looking forward to that a lot. So PSA, have you updated your sprint issues? Don't hesitate to go to github.com/notifications and check anything that you get tagged in. So, last week during I want to propose this. There's a little exercise I'd like us to do, 25, 30 minutes maximum. After there seemed to be, what is the word? Not regret, but some hesitation with the rightness of the decision or the rightness of the way we decided to extend the timeline for the voting process at the end of our sprint retrospective. And Mitch was the first to share his reservations, but it seemed as if other people in the stewards also felt like it didn't sit right, whatever that means. So I want us to dig into that. I want us to dig into just that. I was thinking of doing a post-mortem during the session for the council, but I actually think we can just do an after-action review. It's a super simple exercise. we will hop into this Miro board, and then we could have a params party in our council tomorrow. If everyone is cool with this, I think it will actually help us not just feel better about where we are, but also understand, okay, here's the things that happened and this is what we fix next time. So I think I think it'll be a good exercise for us. I don't think it should take this whole time. I'm expecting it to be 20 to 30 minutes. So after action review is essentially just, it's just to improve our future work. It's not like, hey, we succeeded or we failed. It's like there's almost no judgment at all. We always have weaknesses to improve and strengths to sustain. It's a little bit like a mini retrospective just for one event. Participants should be honest and observe what actually happened. There's no blame, there's no praise, there's no, there's no judgment, there's no compliments. It's just very, just facts, ma'am. No one has all the information, so everyone has something to impart and to share. The ground rules are essentially, everyone should participate. Everyone's views have equal value. No one's has more value than anyone else's. There's no blames. There's no right or wrong answers. We're all open to new ideas and seeing each other's perspective. We can be creative in proposing solutions, and the improv rule of yes and rather than either or. Consensus where possible, if not clarification, and continue commitment to looking for opportunities. Okay. So the way this starts is we just go through 4 categories. So what did we expect to happen? So the idea is like extending the timeline for commons parameter. What did we expect? Like, what should that have looked like? What we expected to happen was a sprint retrospective, but that's not what actually happened. I mean, that did happen, but that surfaced something really important, and then that took precedent. So what did we expect to happen? We'll just do this for about 5 minutes. What actually happened? What went really well and why? And then what could we improve and why? And then at the end of this, hopefully we'll sort of dig into like, what are the things that we can do to avoid a situation where there is, reservations or like hesitations about our decision-making process or the way that we decided or whether we even have the right to decide, or do we have the right to decide? So I'm going to set a timer for 4 minutes and 10 seconds or 4 minutes and 15 seconds. And is everyone in our board? I guess we'll start with what did we expect to happen? Any Post-it note, any size, just go for it. So anyone have any questions or anything they want to share before we get started? So specifically, this is about extending the timeline. So we went from having one timeline that we've shared to having a different timeline. Okay, the timer's starting.
Sorry, Tam, but are you saying like how you expected this decision to happen?
Yeah, exactly. How could you have expected that decision to happen? Or what did you expect to happen at the retrospective? What could it, like other ways that it could have happened that you would have expected would have happened if this was done in a way that didn't leave you with reservations? Following the vote. Welcome, Aloysius.
Hello. Awfully quiet.
So we're probably going to be quiet for a few minutes because we are doing an exercise on a Miro board around a decision that was made by the stewards in the the end of the sprint retrospective and about 30 minutes into the next hour about extending the timeline for the voting process. And you could jump into the Miro board by going into the Stewards Agenda here.
Thank you.
The expectations are like expectations about the params parties. Not
So
the
really,
decision.
extension of the timeline. So we really want to focus on like extending the timeline, how that came to be, from proposing it to voting on it to announcing it. Does that make sense? So our timer is up. Does anyone want a few more minutes? A minute, actually. All right, and from here we can go to what actually happened. So what you expected and what happened, what's the difference between that? Like what actually happened? And I'll set the timer for 4 minutes and 15 seconds again.
That's not clear to me, Tam, because what actually happened, we have to see it, right? Like we have to see the benefits or the cons of the decision. So.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I would think about it from more of the actual voting itself. You know, how it came about. Oh, it came about. It was surfaced through the retrospective. The you know, the what we could do better was surfaced through the, and then we voted on it quickly. So I would look at it more as in like in that instance rather than how it will pan out in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you wanna, you know, prognosticate for what might happen in the future. Okay, maybe I just need a few more seconds. Okay. And maybe now 4 minutes and 15 seconds on what went well and why did it go well? Before we go to what maybe didn't go well, what could be improved. So what did go well if we look at it objectively? Okay, cool. And what didn't go well? What could we improve? What could have gone better? And be explicit. How could it have gone better? And I'll set a timer again for 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Guys, I am really not here.
You talking to us or your children?
My daughters.
Okay.
Thank you.
Like, wow, is there something you got to let out, Tam, or like, what's going on here?
Their
I
iPads
fully
are in
thought
my
it was just
room. They're
us.
confiscated.
I'm glad that somebody asked.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Thanks. Thanks for letting me know I was not on mute.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, cool. All right. So anybody want a few more minutes to fill in any of these? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. And then maybe just ask someone to read each of the sections and pass it on, and we'll go through all 4 sections. So Livia, do you want to start and pass it on? I mean, just read the whole section and then pass on to someone else to read another whole section.
Sure. So what did we expect to happen? I didn't saw it coming. We expected to launch mid-December. We expected to have active full participation in program parties. We expected to have very engaged community in the program parties. We expected the timeline to continue and having the vote end yesterday. We expected clear, good proposals. We expected the time we defined was going to be ideal for learning, experimenting, proposing, and debating. We expected to have more advice process for such a big decision. I expected that we recognized when a decision is rushed. I expected more awareness of timing and pros, cons. We expected to have more token holders informed better. We expected more debates, participation. We expected adequate time to evaluate the decision. We expected a decision like this to be voted on snapshot. We expected more engagement from stewards. We expected to fully address any dissent opposition to a decision. Having a clear set of good proposals to vote on, we expected to make this sort of decision earlier. I was expecting there to be actions to take into the next sprint. In hindsight, the decision to extend the timeline could have been made a priority for the next sprint, giving all stewards and active contributors time to reflect on the impact. Having more collective understanding of the proposals, not rushing things and gaining momentum after holidays. In hindsight, we might have said that extending the timeline was under consideration and would be final in the coming days. The manner tool for voting was professional. Everyone affected had a fair chance to see the vote. I'll pass to Lauren to read what actually happened.
Sorry, my head had avocado all over it. What actually happened? We didn't make a clear action plan for the future. The project was supposed to launch in 2020. We'll launch in 2022. Oh, it meant 2021. We lost momentum. The Stewards working group made the decision. The engagement plan took too long to change, seeing the lack of activity from the community. We didn't decide how to decide. Proposing time changes is something that happens a lot. We can have some best practices for it. It was confusing if that should be a working group or advice process or community advice process. Only about 10 people were advised on a huge decision. TECH holders were not adequately involved. The parties must go on. Dominant voices were carried further. Token holders had no voice. There was many other things happening simultaneously, and engagement wasn't optimal. New contributors standing by for the Commons upgrade. We used a really weird glitchy format to vote, +1. Advice and voting was done hastily in 10 to 15 minutes. The decision was made in a meeting, not made for decision making. The solution did not contain any action steps for improvement. We didn't fully hear out dissent. We made a decision within an hour. Our exploration of alternative solutions was limited. I could have cared more to the decision at the time, but was exhausted and apathetic. The stewards that are responsible for the timeline-dependent working group were all present. We decided to delay, but the final dates still aren't set. The decision was reactive, not anticipatory. More timeline for reflection on the impact for specific people and role, and to make preparations for the change. The sprint call ran overtime, and the vote and decision happened in the time between the sprint and the community call. Not all stewards were present. We felt pressure to take a decision and gained some time to feel more confident. And okay, I'll pass it to Nate for what went well and why.
Thank you. And I will go over. All right, so we have more time to set better parameters. We are now have more focus on our own working group education. Time to outreach more members of the community. We are questioning ourselves. If we consider this a working group decision, it went really well. We created more space to get TE and top token holder involvement in the design of the economy. Considering the problem was stated very last minute, we made a quick decision that seemed beneficial at the moment. We identified some problem areas that could have been solved for prior, essentially avoiding this problem in the first place. This reflection process is important for our governance moving forward. We get to educate ourselves better before taking a decision. We were prompted to come up with new ways to really do collaborative economics. Everyone who was present had a chance to speak. Nobody blew all their votes before the deadline. We were able to make a quick decision as a group. We brought as much information as we had to the table. We had info needed for the community call. It was important not to push the vote in that call or to push the vote in that call. We quickly made the right call. We needed the time. No one knows the impact better than the stewards of the working group. This type of decision may not be useful to forum or the community. Attention exhaustion. We have more time to work on the Commons dashboard. We have more time to work on reward systems. We have more time to work on test of the deployment of the ABC and CV. Under the pressure of the community call and at the end of the vote on November 30th, the decision was reached. Stewards was the right working group to make the decision. All of the working group except Omega and Labs has stewards in the vote. Our working group is an open and safe space where we can voice reservations, disagreements, and be heard. Stewards could represent the concerns of their working groups. The time after exhaustion is where the most creative ideas arise. We synced our launch to not lose attention during the holiday season, and collectively it became known that more time was needed. Good job, team. Capitalism urges speed. Decolonizing work looks like slowing down and noticing our urges to speed up, and instead we got to talk through the discomfort of the decision-making process and what we can improve and how. I will pass it to Edu.
Yay, I got the happy one. So we could have added a day or so to get more relevant involvement. Use the tools we decided on to make decisions. We could be more proactive. Taking holders should have a say on cultural decisions. Always keeping in mind that the advice process isn't only for forum proposals. We could have had an explicit action plan for what is next. We should be able to implement soft resistance into community decisions to validate it. We could have a guide for extending dates since this happens so often. We needed 24 hours for a decision of this magnitude so all time zones have a chance to integrate and give feedback. Minimum 24 hours for advice and voting. Chewy expressed concerns for comms contributors and this wasn't given the needed attention. Individual and group commitments on how extra time will be used. Attending meetings like that shouldn't be so important. If someone missed a meeting, that should always be okay. Important decisions can be made in a snap like this. We can take advice process more seriously by giving more time. We didn't consider the cost of these decisions, time for contributors, and resources for Common Stack. All params and comms contributors weren't present in the decision, even being the ones most affected by it. The criticism to the way things were handled could have been more constructive, offering solutions for improvement. We could have gathered facts before making a decision. We should make on people's availability to make thoughtful decisions. Are people in a good mental space for thinking on impactful things? That was a really difficult decision, actually. There are notable advantages and disadvantages to each option. As someone who voted for the side that did not win, I can only say I am 100% committed to making the winning side decision as successful as we can. The extra time can leverage great publicity and education for a larger community than just the TEC. Establishing metrics for success with CEU proposals. Adjusting timeline to reflect participation levels. Don't let dates govern us. Decisions should have a process and we should stick to it. Not letting pressure get into our decision-making process. Social awareness time to learn about boundaries and consent before people can interpret what that means in regard to tech applications. And I think that will be all. Back to you, Tim. You're muted, sorry.
Lasted a little longer than I expected, but I think some really important insights came out of here. I'm going to pass it around. We will not have enough time for a minute and a half for everyone, but maybe we just get started with that anyway. I'll ask Livia, you to start and pass it on.
Just a general reflection on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I think for me, I think this happens often that we have to change dates, and maybe we could already have some type of best practices for it. And this could be like an output of this process to work on like, oh, whenever we want to change dates, maybe we needed a time, like maybe we need to change just 5 minutes, 5 days before, or I don't know, having a buffer because it was a bit too late that the change was suggested and then that caused the rush. But then I think given the rush that we had, that an important decision was made quickly, and that shows some resilience also, that when we need to decide on something that we can gather and do that. And I feel like the Stewards Working Group have a good overall look into the community to be able to access this, the things that could go wrong. But then I do think that Chewy raised the point that we didn't give full attention because we were in a rush. And that day I felt like particularly, sorry, I just finished with this, like not in a good mental space to make a decision. So I felt like I wasn't like prepared to like put all my focus and energy there. And maybe that should be a practice and moving forward, like, hey, is everyone like really mentally present to think about all the pros and cons and then how we can move forward? And I'll pass to Juanca.
Yeah, this is my first time doing this, so I am learning while doing, and I feel that sometimes we can like feel pressure, but of taking a decision in a hurry, but we should always have our minds cold to not like let that pressure get into our decision making process. So like, yeah, taking things slow is a good way to manage things without being reactionary. And I'll pass to Nate.
Yeah, I'll keep mine quick. I think my biggest concern with this is not the way we handled ourselves. I thought we did great. I think preventing this type of scenario in the future is the most important. And especially with long-term initiatives like the Commons upgrade, to have kind of these metrics of success, these kind of go-no-goes for launching, stuff like that, making sure that we have enough participation and saying this is what we need in order for this to be a valid initiative and to move forward. So avoiding the situation altogether is kind of the priority, in my opinion. But I'll pass it over to Lauren.
I really love what Nate just said about like creating these actionable steps, check-in steps beforehand. But I think the way that I think we were talking about in the call that we needed to make this decision before the community call so that we could announce it to everybody. It's changing the way that the whole structure is going. I think like considering the rush that was like apparent, we did an okay job of like listening to everybody throughout the call and making the decision. It wasn't ideal that the decision was kind of made in a call and didn't involve everybody, but I think like the main thing that I think we could improve upon in the future with these kinds of things is if we make a snap decision, then to make like a snap clear plan like shortly after, maybe like, not right away, but like in that day. And part of like the spillover that I felt and I was talking about with Mitch is like, oh, so now I was doing this outreach. It's like, okay, who are we reaching out? Who do we want to get involved in pram parties? And there was this little bit of like organizing and like adjusting forward that I think if we like implemented that plan, then like at least throughout this week, we could have taken advantage of the time that we have right now to get more participation in pram parties. Whereas like the reality of what happened is that there was like the pram party participation kind of dropped. Yeah, but that's all. I'll pass it to Griff.
I really liked what Nate said. Honestly, I feel like having dates that are longer than a month or longer than 2 weeks it's historically never worked in crypto because everything's moving and changing so fast. So like instead of having dates, if we had more like metrics that we wanted to fill or go or no go from people and going with that. That's what we did with the hatch launch, and I think that would work really well for the Commons upgrade as well. But of course, it's nice to give the expectations of dates. I think snap decisions like this, we should always have at least a day. You know, I think it's a snap. I think things probably could have gone better if we would have said, hey, we're thinking about delaying it. Don't vote in the community call, but like we want to hear the voices of the community, whether or not we should delay or not. And also, we still don't. I would love to hear feedback on the proposed dates and see if those work for everyone. And I'll pass it to Chewy.
Thank you, Griff. I'll also keep it short. I feel like pretty much like Juanca. I like looking back at the decision and how it had to be made. Like it had to be made. Like we needed the extra time. But what I take from it is like this, like looking back on it and saying like what can we improve, and yeah, I think that if now that we're having these ideas and also about what Griff said about what the new dates look like, I feel that there's enough time so that we can put to practice some of the ideas that we're throwing here, like making like soft and commitments, for example. So yeah, that's what I have to say. I'll pass it to Septi.
Thanks, Chuy. Yeah, I'll keep it short too. For me, like the thing that doesn't feel right, like it seems like we're taking decisions on the Steward working group, but that was involving like contributors, like, you know, maybe they're expecting some compensation and they are waiting for the Commons upgrade somehow, and then it's getting delayed. And also like the Commons tag resources, we are not like the stewards, you know, like of the TC are deciding about the Commons like. Yeah, that stuff doesn't feel right, and I feel like at least we should have token holders' voice. And yeah, I'll pass it to Craig.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks, Septi. Clearly, I missed a snap decision, and I missed most of this call. But it's been very helpful listening to you all, and I have nothing useful to add other than I'm going to take a dive and see what happened.
Cool. I might just take it from you in the last minute and 20 seconds. I think I'd say, you know, I agree that there's some really good outputs from here. I think that everyone agrees that it feels rushed and that at least 24 hours would have been better. I think there's some disagreement about whether it was a decision that could be made by the stewards as sort of like the keeper of the work streams of the working groups, or needed input from token holders. I think I think that's an interesting question too. And I think there's definitely no harm with posting it as advice process for the community on the forum, which is what ended up happening. And I think that was a really strategic move. And then I guess I want to say this metric thing, like what are our metrics for the next vote? What should they be? How many proposals? How many proposals that are deemed good enough to actually make it? I think it's maybe interesting to explore that. We're at the top of the hour. Where do I don't think you went? I don't know if you want to take 30 seconds.
Sure.
Yeah, I think this idea of a soft kind of resistance that we implement when we recognize there's a rush decision. Like if we make a rush decision, immediately we can jump into what are the pros and cons and what are the actions. And if we do not have actions or pros and cons clear, then the decision cannot be made. This kind of soft cultural practices could be interesting to implement. So everyone can do it in the spot, doesn't matter what call it is. You can always do it. That's it. Thank you, Tam.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We're at the